Hi, I'm Dave Forrest and this is pseudo memory. This has been a go-to effect of mine for a long time. It's definitely not short and punchy, right? You're not going to do this table hopping, let's say, but as a sort of a performance piece done in casual circumstances, I say look no further. It's a stunner and relatively easy to do. It was first published on a DVD of mine called Radio Rental in, I don't know what year, too many years ago too many that I'd be comfortable recalling, but nonetheless, it's still a trick I use. It was a big hit at my lectures for many years, and I love it as a card trick. It's really quite useful, and it has this amazing facet, which is that it has a pseudo explanation. The trick's called pseudo memory because it's obviously there's no memory work involved, but it really looks like you've managed to memorise the deck. But more important, it has this pseudo explanation phase where the explanation, there's a point in it where it seems like effect over, right? That trick's done, and then you almost begin to offer them a little peek behind the curtain. I'm going to tell you how this is done. If you can ever get that line into a magic trick or a card trick specifically, I'm going to show you how it's done. Watch how their interest grows. They are glued to the idea that you may actually be going to teach them something. Of course, your explanation only serves to further baffle them. And then it has this amazing ending that I just love where you get to hand the sort of round of applause, as it were, or the big moment at the end. You get to hand that over to a spectator, and that is the perfect way to end a routine where you have been, showing off somewhat your amazing memory skills. And so it's all you, up until the last phase, the very last thing is the applause is on them. And so structurally it's very sound. It's a great trick. I love it. It's called pseudo memory. That's enough of me singing my own praises. Let's talk about how it's done. So one of the beautiful things certainly is that it's from a shuffle deck. I mean, you've got to love it, right, when it's a shuffle deck, because me personally, I don't like a lot of setup. If I can work out a way to do something from a shuffle deck, you better believe that's the way I'm going to go every single time. And it's not that I don't like setup tricks. Obviously, I do some, and I've created many. But I'll be honest, it's my memory isn't that good, which is kind of funny because this trick's about having an amazing memory. My actual memory is not great, and so setups, complex setups and all that, I don't get on well with that. And generally, if I do a setup deck trick, it stays set up at the end, so I don't need to ever do it. So anyway, from a shuffle deck in use, you explain, there's little branches that come off magic, like juggling and balloon modelling and all these things. They're all wonderful. I'm absolutely not trying to disparage any of it. But they're sort of grouped in together, magic and stuff like that. And one of those things is extreme feats of memory, and that's what I'm going to try now. And you're explaining this little opening gambit while they are shuffling the cards, and they're hopefully doing a better job than that. You say you explain to them that the deck will not change from this order that you just shuffled it into. It's important to remember that. A shuffle deck, and it will not change from this order. That's not strictly speaking true, but by the time you get to that, it's long gone, and they won't notice anyway. You say, I'm going to have you look at a card in the pack, and then I'm going to have you move that card a few positions after I've memorised the order. And then when I recall the order, one card will be out of position, and therefore, so it's Moe's move a card, right? That's traditionally what this trick was known as. It's certainly the most famous version of it, Moe's move a card. And I'll need to get a reference as to where that first appeared. But that's the premise of that, where they move a card and you can tell which one's been moved. I'm not sure if the original presentation was a memorised deck thing. It probably was. Nothing else makes much sense. Anyway, here we go. They're going to look at a card in the pack. Now, I'm just going to do this style of peek, because all you're going to do is peek the card that they looked at. But you've got all the time in the world to do it. So they're going to come like this and say stop. So in this case, they're on this card here, which is the Jack of Clubs. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't know that, but I put a pinky break in there and then I spread a few. And all that does is just hide that pinky break, right? I'm going to try and memorise the order of this pack. My record is 25 seconds. You say go and I'll try and memorise the order. So they say go. And here's where you get your peek. Because I need to roll this deck over now to memorise the cards. So I'm using a book break to roll it over here. I catch the Jack of Clubs. And it's just a quick glimpse. Jack of Clubs. Perfect. Now what I do is, in apparently memorising the pack, I'm going to cull the other 3 jacks and leave the Jack of Clubs exactly where it is. There's the Jack of Hearts. Sorry, there's the Jack of Hearts. That gets culled. There's the Jack of Spades. Cull that. Jack of Clubs, leave it exactly where it is. Jack of Diamonds. And you're done. So the situation now is the 3 mates to the card that they looked at are on top of the pack. And the card that they actually looked at is still somewhere in the pack. Hand over the deck and ask them to run through, find their card, and they have to move it a few positions one way or the other. Don't disturb any other cards, make sure you tell them that. Don't disturb any other cards and only move it a few positions one way or the other. That's a lesson learned the hard way, because obviously if they choose to move it all the way to the very end, they're probably going to find the 3 mates to the card they're thinking of, and that's game over. So make sure, and you explain that because it's a feat of memory, your subtext is, I'll never be able to do it. If you move it too far, it's just my sequence won't, you make up, they don't know how it works. So any explanation to stop them discovering those 3 mates, fine. If you do it, and funnily enough, when I did it with Dale, he just asked the question, which never happens, how far can I move it? Only a few cards one way or the other. And I always add in, if you move it too far, it'll not work. And they don't want it to not work, right? They really don't. 99% of spectators don't want it to not work. They want it to work. So they will do what you ask them. And of course you say don't disturb the order of any other cards. That makes perfect sense because that's the order you've memorised. So it's, you're pretty much covered. The presentation kind of covers your weird instructions. They're going to find that card and they're going to move it a couple of cards. So they might do something like this. Okay, and close up the pack. Do bear in mind here that if they're a bit fumbly and if a few cards fall out or whatever, just go with it. Say, oh no, pick them up quick and try and put them back roughly. It doesn't matter, if they're going to take their time in doing it, fine, but because the method doesn't actually rely on the deck staying in that order, so don't worry about it. Now comes the setup for the counting sequence. While I'm trying to decipher which card they've got in their mind, the one that they've just moved, I'm going to set up to count to the other 3. Here's how you do that. Remember this card, that's the first thing. And then I'm going to take 5 cards off the face of the pack. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to look a little bit confused. You only moved a few cards. And they'll say yes. And the point of this little stop moment is just so that I can and you'll see me touch my face a lot. I know it's not ideal, but for me, it makes sense as a separation of these cards like that. Because as I continue, I'm going to spread on top of these. Spectators, lay people, they don't treat that as if I was to cut them or something, they might go, I thought you said they were going to stay in the same order. But as I'm just spreading on top of them, that's never going to be noticed by them that cards are actually changing position now, right? So you spread off 5. Remember this 2 of spades if you can. And then continue spreading. That's weird. Something threw me off there. And you're acting like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off. You're going to come through. You're going to hit your Jack of Clubs soon. Ignore it completely. And then I'm going to come all the way to the end of the pack. And here's the sort of only real move in the trick. What I need to do is buckle that top one. And these 5 cards go in there. Right? So the position of the cards now is a jack, 5 X cards, the lowermost of which is the 2 of spades, and 2 jacks. See that? And that's all done as you've run through them once. You appear to be in some trouble. I don't know. Then I'm going to run through a second time, but I'm going to find the card that appears out of position in my memorised order now. 3, 6, 9, 10. And again, I tend to bring my hand away from the pack so that I can then come back and spread on top. If you can remember this card, do it. 8 of clubs. No, oh wait a minute, now I see it. So I up-jog the jack, and now these 10 cards go on top of the pack as I remove the jack of clubs. So the position in the pack now is 10 cards, followed by a jack, followed by 5 cards, followed by 2 jacks. And the 10th card down is the 8 of clubs, and that little bank of 5, the lower one, is the 2 of spades. But don't worry if you haven't remembered that, because as I put this down, I say, I think that's it. And what I can do now is I can run through and check. I think it's good to sell the cards before it. It really sells the memorised deck thing. So if you don't want to have too much to think about, then look at them now and say 2 of spades, 8 of clubs. And all I'm doing there is I'm finding the jacks. There's the 2 of spades, 8 of clubs, 2 of spades. Because you're going to come to the 8 first, then the 2 of spades. That's it. That's in your mind, and you're now set to do something incredible. Which card are you thinking of? And now is the time to start referring to it as the card they're thinking of. They're going to tell you it's... And I really like to play this like magician in trouble the whole way. Like as if this is quite difficult. I'm trying to sell the idea throughout the whole routine that I'm really doing this. This is right, that I'm really doing it. And so it's like, I don't know if I've got it. What card are you thinking of? Jack of clubs. They turn it over. You got it right. And now comes the point where you change the whole mood and tone of the entire card trick. Because that appears to be the end of the trick. You told them what you were going to do, memorise the deck, spot the one out of sequence. You've done that. So that feels like trick over. And again, because you're building tension with this idea that I don't know if this is going to work the whole time, when it does work, there is a release of tension that is synonymous with the end of a trick. I got it, turn it over, jack of clubs. Feels like the end of the trick because it kind of is. And now you offer, let me tell you how this is done. And this is where it gets interesting. And happily, where they become interested, because if you offer lay people a chance to know how things like this are done, they are going to be on it like white on rice. So here's how you do it. What you do is you attach numbers to the playing cards. Now, by way of example, I can tell you that there was another jack in the pack, and I don't mention suits and all that, I just say another jack, and the number that I gave it was 42. But that was from the face. If I flip that over, that should be 11 cards from the top. That's actually surprisingly complicated maths. It really is for me, but it's just a script for me now. But if you check it out, if you remember the 42nd card from the face, that'll be the 11th card from the top, presuming there's 52 cards in the pack. And this one is a freebie because you're just going to count down 10. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 10th card should be the 8 of clubs, right? Because you either remembered it or you just looked at it a moment ago. There it is, the 8 of clubs. And this stuff gets reactions, you know. The 10th card should be the 8 of clubs. Yeah, it is. And the next card should be a jack. And lo and behold, it is a jack. Now look, see I'm putting these face down. That's important. I gave another jack, you say, there was another jack and I gave it the number 35, which from the top down, if I do my maths quickly, should be 17 cards in the pack. So that's 10, that's 11, that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 should be the 2 of spades, right? Because you just looked at it. There it is. And the 17th card should be another jack. And it is. Now here's what you do. In preparation for this final phase where they tell you the number of the card that the last jack is in, I'm going to, as I turn this jack here, excuse me, as I turn this jack here, I take a break under the next card, which is of course the final jack. And now all I do is I say there's one more jack in the pack. I absent-mindedly, there's one more jack in the deck, and I table a double. See? That's why these are face down. So let's go from here. There's the jack. There's one more card inside the pack, and I did that absent-mindedly and table a double here. Now, I mean, I feel like there's not a lot to say about tabling a double. I think if you've never done it and are slightly worried about it, don't be, because if I take a double and I drop it, the chances of it staying in alignment are almost greater than those that, you know, that it'll split, because you're dropping it on top of pre-existing cards on the table. Then there's even more leeway, I think, because shadows and everything, and the idea that 1, 2, 3 cards is on the table is is a better visual. To sell actually 4 cards as 3 is easier, or certainly less to worry about, than selling 2 as 1, if you see what I mean. I'm sure you do. The point being, you've just found this last jack, you're not finished. There's one card left in the pack. It'll be a number above 17. Now what I do, as I say, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. I'm going to show you through the deck. You won't think there's enough time for you to see anything, and there won't be, because you really riffle through them quite quickly. But it's a number above 17. That makes sense because you've dealt through 17 cards already. So pick those up, put them back on top of the pack, and then I do this. You ready? There's not enough time for them to see anything. In case they're trying to find that jack, even if they are looking for it, there is no jack in there. But I do give the caveat, you won't feel like there's enough time for you to see anything. But trust in your instincts and give me a number. Remember, the number's above 17. Are you ready? What's the number? And generally they're going to, it doesn't matter what they say. I think Dale said 18, which was weird because that would be the very next card, which it was. Actually, the next card before I put it on the table. Anyway, they generally, in my experience, give you a number in the 20s somewhere. Here's what you do next. A brilliant move by Amilcar Rega. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, although I'm sure I'm murdering it. I first saw this on the Devil's Picture book, the Darren Brown video. And funnily enough, anybody who ever does this move or has seen it tends to have got it from the Devil's Picture book, as opposed to from where its original source, which I'm unsure as to where that was, where its original source was. Anyway, it belongs to Amilcar Rega and it's fantastic. And here is what you do. Remembering that this is a double. Now, like I say, the number would be in the 20s normally. I find that for whatever reason they assume it's in the 20s. I think it's because you say the number's above 17. I think when you say that, they tend to give you a number in the 20s, which is kind of odd because they could go all the way up to 50. But anyway, I'm 52. Something to think about, or to completely ignore. Anyway, here we go. Now, I'm only going to demonstrate this with a smaller number because I'm only trying to show you the move and I don't want to deal lots of cards. So in this case, we're going to use the 10th card. But in real practice, it would be above 17. Anyway, this time we're going to use the number 10. Here's what happens. You're going to start to deal cards face down and then overlap them. And I'm moving towards, as I deal, I'm moving towards these 3 cards here on the table. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that was in slow motion, and I don't know how it looks on that camera. Watch the performance clip. It's almost a self-working thing, and I feel silly saying that because obviously it's not self-working, but at the same time, it's not as difficult or anything as it looks. When I say self-working, I mean it sort of works automatically, because of course what's happening is I'm not dealing a 10th card. I'm pulling that 10th card back onto the deck, and then my thumb strikes the double and splits it and gives the unbelievably good illusion that you dealt a card onto the 3 cards that are already on the table. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that, to me, is one of the finest things in card magic. I absolutely think that is just incredible. Now, let's do it one more time. It'd be nice if you get a little snap off this card, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that to all the world looks like you just dealt the card at the number that they named onto the table. It's a stunning bit of card magic. I absolutely love it. And then all that's left to do, actually let me just go over it quickly one more time in case I feel like maybe I'm being a bit brief. So I'll do it super slow motion here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Push this one off. You're going to come up with these fingers here. And then the thumb strikes this double. That's it in like two motions. So it's 10. Alright. All you're doing is pulling the 10th card back and striking that double. Nothing could actually be easy. It's a little bit knacky, but you will get there. And of course there is a flow and a motion to it, and this motion of dealing towards that pile I think really helps. But you've got some motion anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It just looks incredible. Practice it a few times and you'll get it. It's dead easy. And it looks incredible, and it's on its own is a stunning trick because they can literally name any number, and as long as you've got some cards to deal on, that's it. So anyway, the trick's not over here. You deal that card and you stop and you say that's the card at the number that you named. Have you ever done this type of thing before? Now, the reason I pick these up and then do this is just because there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. Because you placed a double down, were I to just show them that one, that would be the card that I found before. I know I'm belting braces here because no one's ever going to remember that. You've never talked about the suits of the jacks in any specific way, apart from the one that they looked at. But just in case, when I deal this one, I don't show it like this, because that's the one I apparently tabled. Apparently that's that one. So I scoop them all up and I say, have you ever tried anything like this before? You just go with your instincts and you'll not believe it, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4 jacks. And I create a lot of separation between the pile and whichever jack was where by sort of laying them down, and it really signifies end of trick now. Yeah, that's it. You've done a memorized deck thing, and then they've done this incredible card at number thing at the end, where your solution, or rather your explanation for how you're able to memorize the deck, seems like they can do it as well, to some extent. I'm sure they're smart enough to know that they've been had, but only at the end. And as I say, it's got that brilliant moment where you get to hand it over to them at the end, because you've been doing a bit of showing off with your super memory skills, and then at the end you get to hand that applause off to one of your spectators. And as I say, from a shuffle deck in use, as long as all the cards are in the deck. That's the one caveat. And again, this is a lesson learned the hard way, because obviously if there's one card missing and they happen to peek at the mate of that card, then you're going to be in trouble, because when you go to cull the mates of it, you're only going to find 2 of them instead of 3 of them. So that's one minor thing to consider if you're planning on doing it with the mythical borrowed deck, although I don't know how many times I've said it, but I don't really get the opportunity to borrow a deck of cards that often, so for me that's never really a concern. So it has to be a full deck, but other than that it can be shuffled in, and I think it's a nice little performance piece, and it's definitely one for when you've got their attention. So maybe you've done a few things, your card set, and once you've got their attention, because they're going to have to pay a bit of attention. I'm not trying to sell this as the type of effect that's perfect at any time, anywhere. It's not. It needs to be placed somewhat carefully, right? You need to give it some consideration, but you'll know the moment when you've got them in the palm of your hand. How about one more thing? Let's try this. it's a kind of memory thing. It's not really magic. We'll try it anyway. If you sell it like that, and if you sell it like you're really doing it, it'll pay you back tenfold, I promise you. It's certainly served me well over the years. And I've really actually just enjoyed revisiting it for the sake of this new download version. So it is my baby. Do take care of it. That's Pseudo Memory. I'm Dave Forrest. See you next time.